"I'll give you my Porsche if you can fix this." The billionaire boss laughed, but the humble cleaner shut him down instantly. Rita Silva never imagined that the reflection of her navy blue and white uniform in the tinted glass of that conference room would be the last time she would be seen as invisible. But that Monday morning, something was about to shatter 6 years of silence. The 42nd floor of the tallest skyscraper in Manhattan offered a panoramic view of the entire city. 32 years old, dark skin taking on a coppery sheen under the sun streaming through the immense windows, her frame too slight for the standard uniforms that hung loosely on her shoulders. Rita had been polishing that Italian marble floor for so long she knew every vein in the stone, every scratch left by designer shoes that cost more than her monthly salary. She had been there since 5 a.m. as always, emptying trash cans overflowing with premium gourmet coffee pods, removing sushi sauce stains from the carpet, polishing the 15-foot glass table where executives in tailored suits decided the fate of thousands of jobs without ever looking at her. Rita had become an expert at disappearing. She would lower her head when entering, murmur, "Excuse me," so softly no one heard, moving like a shadow among the mid-century modern furniture. But this morning, something was different. Edward Ed Vance, CEO and majority shareholder of Apex Velocity Logistics, AVL, was slamming his fist onto the conference table with enough force to make the crystal tumblers vibrate. At 49, his perfectly gray hair slicked back, wearing an iron gray Armani suit that matched the signal yellow Porsche 911 Carrera parked in the adjacent glass showroom. His 10th collector's car, Ed was a man accustomed to having all the answers. Today, he had none. "2 million, he repeated, spinning around to face the 10 executives seated around the table. $2 million a day. For 3 months, and none of you can tell me why." Rita should have left. She knew that when meetings got this tense and explosive, her presence was even more awkward. But something on the spreadsheet projected onto the glass wall made her freeze. Mop handle still in hand, bucket at her feet. She recognized those numbers. "The system is bleeding cash," Ed continued, pointing to the red graphs dominating the presentation. "Shipments arriving late, routes being duplicated, trucks returning empty, deliveries going to the wrong city zones. It's like someone took a sledgehammer to all our operations in the outer boroughs." The executives avoided his gaze. They had tried everything. Roger Sterling, the logistics manager, a man in his early 40s with a neatly trimmed beard and an ostentatiously expensive Swiss watch, had presented 3 different reports blaming the software, then IT, then weather conditions. Nothing stuck. "We brought in consultants from McKinsey," said Anthony Sterling, the CFO and Roger's cousin, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses. "They've been analyzing for 2 weeks and still haven't pinpointed the source." $2 million a day, Ed repeated, softer now, as if calculating how much of his personal fortune was evaporating. "If we don't fix this in a week, we'll have to lay off 300 people. And if it continues for another month." He didn't finish, but everyone understood. AVL Logistics, an empire built over 20 years, was on the brink of collapse. Rita looked at the spreadsheet again. The routes were there, coded by numbers. Route 47, outer boroughs to Manhattan. Route 74, Manhattan to outer boroughs. The volumes didn't make sense. They were inverted. She had seen those codes hundreds of times. Not in the conference room during the day, but in the dead of night, when she was cleaning and reports were left open on the desks. For the past 6 years, while everyone slept, Rita had observed every presentation left open on computers, every spreadsheet printed and abandoned, every diagram scribbled on cocktail napkins during late-night brainstorms. More than that, she kept notebooks, for cheap college-ruled composition books, bought at a street vendor, their plastic covers already cracked. In them, Rita noted everything. Inconsistencies she noticed in the reports. Numbers that didn't balance. Routes that made no logistical sense. It was a habit rooted in before, from when she had another life. From when she was studying industrial engineering at CUNY, waking up at 4 a.m. to get to campus by 6, attending classes until noon, working as an administrative assistant from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m., getting home near midnight, studying until 1 a.m. For years like that, for years climbing step by step, maintaining an A average, dreaming of the day she would have her degree, a real job, a future different from the life her mother, Joanna, had led. 3 simultaneous jobs, a body broken by 50, hands shaking from years of heavy lifting. Rita was 6 months from graduating when the diagnosis came. Brain tumor, aggressive, inoperable, and the wait time for treatment through the public system was 9 months. 9 months her mother didn't have. She dropped out of college the next day. She needed money, fast, and the administrative assistant job didn't pay enough. That's when she saw the opening for a cleaner at AVL. 40% higher salary. Night shift, which freed up her days to be with her mother. No qualification required. She accepted that same day. It was supposed to be 6 temporary months. It turned into 6 permanent years. Because even with the money, even after the private treatment they managed to afford by selling everything they owned, the tumor progressed. And one Thursday night, 2 years ago, when her mother started feeling ill at home, in their neighborhood in the South Bronx, Rita discovered that money for treatment meant nothing if you didn't have a way to get to the hospital. The last subway ran at 10 p.m. It was 10:30. A cab to the ER cost $80. Rita had 23 in her pocket. The ambulance service estimated 40 minutes. Took an hour and 15. Mrs. Joanna died at 11:47 p.m. that night, in the living room of their modest home, holding her daughter's hand, while Rita whispered, "Hold on, Mom. It's coming. It's almost here." The yellow Porsche that Ed Vance flaunted in that glass showroom wasn't just a car to Rit. It was the difference between life and death. It was arriving on time. It was never again watching helplessly as someone you love slips away because you didn't have 4 wheels and an engine. And now, standing in that room with her mop and bucket, Rita looked at that spreadsheet and saw the answer that 10 executives and an elite consulting firm hadn't found. Ed turned, exasperated, and his gaze fell upon her for the first time in 6 years of working in the same space. She was standing there, frozen, staring at the projection screen. "What is it?" he said, with the tone that came naturally to men accustomed to never being questioned. "Do you need the room cleaned?" "No, sir," Rita murmured, starting to step away, but her eyes involuntarily snapped back to the spreadsheet, to those numbers screaming the error. 47 and 74. Swapped. Since March. 3 months. Exactly when the losses began. It followed her gaze. And something in that moment, perhaps the tension of the moment, perhaps the frustration of 3 months without answers, perhaps just the casual cruelty of someone who never had to consider that people below them could have thoughts, made him let out a short, bitter laugh that cut through the tense silence of the room. "Now even the cleaning lady is looking at our numbers," he said, and the executives offered nervous chuckles, easing the tension. "What is it, honey?" "Find the solution that Harvard and McKinsey missed." Roger Sterling laughed the loudest. Anthony leaned back in his chair, finally relaxing. Ed walked toward the glass window overlooking the showroom. The yellow Porsche gleamed under the LED lights. He had bought the car last month after selling $3 million in company stock. A treat for himself. The 10th vehicle in the collection he kept at his Tribeca penthouse. "You know what?" Ed turned back to Rita with the smile of someone about to deliver a great punchline. "I'll give you my car if you solve this." He pointed to the Porsche with one hand, the spreadsheet with the other. The room erupted in laughter. Even Marcia Tavares, the 52-year-old executive assistant standing by the door with a coffee tray, smiled discreetly. "I'm serious," Ed continued, getting into the performance. What's your name again?" "Rita, sir. If you, Rita, figure out what's causing this $2 million hole daily when 10 people with MBAs couldn't, I'll sign the title transfer today. How about that?" More laughter. Someone commented, "Now she'll solve it in 5 minutes." Another quipped, "We better start checking the windowsills. Maybe she'll find something we missed." The silence that followed was so absolute that Rita heard the hum of the AC for the first time in those 6 years. "The problem is in the outer borough's distribution hub," she said, her voice firm but not loud. "Route codes 47 and 74 have been inverted in the system since March." Ed blinked. Once, twice, as if processing words in a language he didn't expect to hear. "What did you say?" Rita swallowed hard. Her heart pounded so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. But she had opened her mouth. There was no turning back. Route 47 should be Outer Boroughs to Manhattan. Route 74, Manhattan to Outer Boroughs. In the system, they are swapped. So all the trucks meant for the Outer Boroughs are going to Manhattan and vice versa. That's why costs exploded. The silence now had physical weight. 10 executives turned toward her simultaneously, as if rehearsed. How do you know that? Anthony was the first to speak, slowly removing his glasses. I observe, Rita said, feeling the blood rush to her face. When I clean at night, the reports are left on the desks. I pay attention. Pays attention? Ed repeated, and there was something new in his voice. It wasn't mockery anymore. It was something between surprise and irritation. To logistics reports. While cleaning. Yes, sir. Roger Sterling shot up abruptly, grabbing his laptop. This is absurd. Such a simple code inversion? Our systems have automatic verification. Someone would have noticed. But as he spoke, his fingers were already typing, accessing the central system. His screen was projected onto the wall. He navigated to the route module, zoomed in, opened the outer borough settings, and there it was. Route 47, destination configured as Manhattan. Route 74, destination configured as Outer Boroughs. Inverted, since March 11th. 3 months and 1 week ago. Oh my God, Marcia whispered from the doorway, nearly dropping the tray. It took 3 steps until he was standing in front of Rita. She was 5 inches shorter, and she had to tilt her chin up to meet his eyes. For the first time in 6 years, he saw her. Truly saw her. The deep brown eyes. The heavy dark circles of someone who never sleeps enough. The thin hands gripping the mop handle tightly enough to turn her knuckles white. How did you identify this? He asked, slowly. The volumes didn't make sense, Rita replied, gaining confidence with every word. On Route 47, you had 3 times the deliveries for the truck capacity. On 74, trucks sitting idle. When I saw the pattern repeating week after week on the printed reports, I wrote it down. The more I wrote, the clearer it became that it was a configuration error. You wrote it down, Ed said. Where? Rita hesitated. Then, slowly, she pulled open the front pocket of her uniform. From it, she withdrew a college-ruled composition book. Faded blue cover, worn corners, pages yellowed by time and use. She placed it on the glass table. Ed opened it. The first page had a date, March 15th. Route 47 anomaly, 347 deliveries scheduled, 112 trucks available. Route 74 anomaly, 89 deliveries scheduled, 156 trucks available. Below, in neat handwriting, possible destination swap? He turned more pages, each one carefully filled out. Dates, times, numbers, observations, hand-drawn charts, estimates of losses, month-to-month comparisons. You did all this while cleaning? Anthony approached, peering over Ed's shoulder. At night, after my shift ended, I stayed an extra hour, Rita explained, to double-check the numbers before leaving. Why? Ed asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Why would you do that? Rita opened her mouth, closed it. How to explain? How to put into words that for 6 years while erasing whiteboards fill. Ed, with brilliant strategies and emptying trash cans overflowing with drafts of million-dollar decisions, a part of her, the part that had studied 4 years of engineering, that had dreamed of working in process optimization, that had written a thesis on urban logistics, had never truly died? I used to study this, she finally said, her voice almost a whisper. Study what? Impressed. Industrial engineering. CUNY. For full years completed. I was 1 semester away from graduating. The bomb dropped in the center of that conference room as if someone had dropped a brick onto the glass table. You have 4 years of engineering? Roger spoke, and something in his voice had changed. It wasn't surprise. It was close to fear. I had, Rita corrected. I took a leave 6 years ago. When my mother got sick and I needed a better-paying job with hours that allowed me to care for her. And you never went back? Marcia asked, having discreetly moved closer, her eyes shining. After she died, couldn't. There was no reason left. Ed slowly closed the notebook, as if holding something explosive. He looked at the 10 executives sitting around the table. They had all graduated from expensive private universities. 3 had postgraduate degrees overseas. 1 held a master's from Stanford. And it was a cleaner, who earned her way through 4 years of public university on 3 jobs, who found in seconds what they hadn't found in 3 months. His pride was hurt. More than hurt, it was bleeding as much as the company's cash flow. Anyone would have seen this eventually, he muttered, trying to regain control of the room. It was luck. It wasn't luck, Rita retorted. And for the first time in 6 years, there was a spark in her voice. I know what I'm talking about. You do. Ed raised an eyebrow. Then tell me, if it's just a code inversion, why didn't our system catch it? We have automatic checks, alarms. Why did this slip through? Rita took a deep breath. This was it. Either she retreated into anonymity, let the error be fixed, and disappeared back into the shadows of the navy blue uniform, or she went all the way. Because it's not just an accidental inversion, she said. It's sabotage. The words fell like molten lead. What? It turned completely toward her now. Look here. Rita took the laptop from the nearest executive. He didn't protest, just pushed the device toward her with trembling fingers. She accessed the system, navigating with a familiarity born from months of watching others do the same. The inversion happened on March 11th, at 11:47 p.m., a time when no one from the logistics team is here. The change was made manually, using an administrator login. I am the only administrator, Ed stated. No, there are 2 other users with administrator privileges. You and... Rita scrolled to the Settings tab. Roger Sterling and Anthony Sterling. The 2 cousins exchanged a glance. Roger took a step back. This proves nothing, Anthony said quickly. It could have been a hack, someone cloning credentials. It could, Rita conceded. But it wasn't, because this isn't the only error. There's more. She opened the second notebook she carried in her pocket. This one was newer, pages less yellowed. In the last 6 months, there have been 17 smaller errors in the system. Shipments that vanished for 48 hours and then reappeared. Duplicate invoices. Trucks reported as empty but logged as having cargo. All errors occurred during overnight hours. And all were corrected before they reached official reports. How do you know that if they were corrected? Ed took the notebook from her hands, flipping through quickly. Because I saw the before and after reports. The system generates an automatic backup at 3 a.m. I cleaned the office at 4 a.m. When I saw inconsistencies, I took a picture of the screen with my phone before they were erased. Rita pulled her phone, an old model with a cracked screen, but functional, from her pocket. She opened the gallery. Hundreds of photos, spreadsheets, charts, system, screens, all time-stamped. Ed scrolled through the images, and with each one he saw, his expression hardened. Roger had visibly paled. Anthony was sweating, suddenly making the air conditioning seem inadequate. These errors form a pattern, Rita continued, her voice firmer now. They always involve the same third-party carriers, always in high-value cargo, and they always result in losses later accounted for as normal operational overhead. Are you accusing someone of stealing cargo? Ed asked slowly, choosing every word. I am saying someone is creating deliberate errors in the system to mask diversions, and that the inversion of routes 47 and 74 was not an error. It was a smokescreen, a problem so large and obvious that it would make you focus on it while the smaller diversions continued unnoticed. The silence that followed was broken by Roger. This is ridiculous, he said, his voice too loud to be natural. You're inventing conspiracy theories based on... What? Blurry photos? Notes from a cleaning lady. Notes from an engineer, Rita corrected. And there was steel in her voice now. And I can prove it. The third-party carriers appearing in all these errors are 3, Translog, Direct Cargo, and Sterling Transport. The first two only exist on paper. They have EINs, registered addresses, but no real trucks, drivers, or warehouses. They are shell companies. And Sterling Transport, she looked directly at Roger, is registered in your brother's name. That's... You can't. Anthony jumped up abruptly, knocking over his chair. That's defamation. Who do you think you are? Someone who pays attention, Rita replied. Ed raised his hand, silencing everyone. His eyes were fixed on Rita, and there was something new in them. It was no longer mockery. It wasn't anger. It was calculation. The same look he had when closing multimillion-dollar deals. Can you prove all of this? He asked. I can. All photos have date and time metadata. All my notebooks are here. And if you request the full system logs, not the edited reports that reach the board, but the raw server logs, you will find every manual alteration that was made and then deleted. Ed turned to the CTO sitting at the end of the table. Daniel, a man in his early 30s with a lumberjack beard and a startup hoodie, was ready typing furiously on his laptop. I'll need 2 days for a full audit of the logs, but I can pull preliminary data now. Do it, Ed ordered. Wait, Roger stepped forward, all pretense of calm abandoned. Are you really believing her? A cleaner who shows up here with crazy theories and theories that explain 3 months of financial hemorrhage. Ed cut him off, his voice icy. Theories based on documented data that none of you even noticed. So yes, Roger, I am inclined to believe her more than you right now. Rita felt her legs weaken. She had done it. She had said everything. And for a second, just 1 second, she allowed herself to feel the satisfaction of finally being heard after 6 years of being invisible. But the satisfaction was short-lived. Sir, Anthony regained his composure, straightening his jacket. Even if there is something to these accusations, we cannot simply accept her word. She has no credentials, no position in the company, and frankly, she might have her own agenda. Why trust someone who doesn't even have a degree? And there it was, the old weapon, disqualification based on origin. I have the credibility of 4 years of university, Rita said, but her voice had lost its force. For incomplete years, Anthony chimed in, at a state university, unfinished. That doesn't qualify anyone to make serious accusations against managers with decades of experience and MBAs from recognized institutions. Other executives nodded in agreement. Ed hesitated. Rita saw the internal war on his face, pragmatism versus hierarchy. She had solved the impossible problem, but she was a cleaner. Publicly admitting that a cleaner was more competent than his entire board? That had a cost for a man like him. I'll tell you what we're going to do, Ed finally said. And Rita felt her stomach sink because his tone had shifted again. It was the tone of bargaining. You, Rita, solved the route issue. That's undeniable. And I am a man of my word. I promised the car if you solved it, and I intend to honor that. Eventually. Eventually, Rita repeated. If you really want to prove it wasn't luck, that you have the competence you claim, then prove it completely. Don't just identify the problem. Fix it. Implement a permanent solution. Create a fail-safe system. And if in 6 months we have 0 losses due to logistics errors, the car is yours. I'll sign the title transfer personally. And what about the sabotage accusations? Rita asked. Daniel will conduct the audit. If there is anything, we'll handle it internally. But that's not your concern. You are. He hesitated on the word. A custodial employee, not corporate investigation. Your job, if you accept this challenge, is to fix the system. Leave the criminal aspect to the lawyers. In other words, Rita said slowly, you want me to solve everything alone while remaining a cleaner and maybe get what you promised? No, Ed smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. I want you to prove you're worth something other than cleaning floors. Because anyone can have a lucky guess. Proving real competence, that takes work. Are you willing? Rita looked at the yellow Porsche through the glass. Gleaming. Untouchable. A promise wrapped in 6 months of trials and the arrogance of a man who couldn't stand being corrected by someone he considered inferior. She thought of her mother, of Mrs. Joanna dying in a humble room because there was no way to get to the hospital. She thought of how many other people were in that exact situation at that exact moment, all over the city, all over the country. How many lives could be saved if she had that car? If she could use it to drive out to the outer boroughs, pick up those in need, make a difference. I accept, she said. But if I succeed, I don't just want the car. I want the company to create a subsidized transportation program for employees in areas with scarce public transit. And a scholarship fund so that staff can finish their studies without having to choose between family and a diploma. The audacity of the request made several executives laugh. Ed didn't laugh. He studied Rita for a long moment, then extended his hand. If you deliver results, we'll talk. But first, prove you are capable. Rita shook his hand. His skin was soft, well cared for. Hers, rough from cleaning supplies and chlorinated water. 2 worlds touching for 3 seconds. Marcia, Ed called the secretary. Give Rita overnight system access. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., she can use any available computer. But, he turned back to Rita, you keep your regular duties. Cleaning continues. This is outside your normal job. And you have 6 months. Not 1 day more. 6 months. 180 days to do the impossible. Cleaning bathrooms by day and writing code by night. Proving to a room full of men who never had to prove anything to anyone that she was as good as she claimed. Rita left that room with her hands trembling so badly she could barely hold them up. But there was something new in her chest. Something that had been dormant for 6 years, since she saw the ambulance arrive too late that Thursday night. It was anger and determination and the absolute certainty that this time she wouldn't fail. The first 3 months were meticulously organized hell. Rita woke up at 4 a.m., took 3 buses to reach downtown Manhattan by 6 a.m., started cleaning at 6:30 a.m., bathrooms from the 10th to the 42nd floor, disinfecting every toilet, every sink, every mirror where executives checked their teeth after business lunches, emptied 147 trash cans, mopped 3,200 square feet of flooring, cleaned 89 office desks, restocked toilet paper, soap, and paper towels in 34 restrooms, finished at 6 p.m. Then, instead of going home, she went back up to the 42nd floor. At 10 p.m., when the last executive finally left, always leaving dirty cups and scattered papers, of course. Rita sat in front of the computers that during the day displayed profit spreadsheets and opened her own project. A completely new real-time logistics tracking system. She had no budget. She couldn't hire developers. She didn't have access to paid software or premium cloud servers. So she worked with what she had: open-source tools, YouTube tutorials watched at 1.5x speed, and the expertise she had acquired in 4 years of college plus 6 years of obsessive observat. Python, JavaScript, SQL, languages she had learned in night classes at CUNY years ago, now resurrected from memory line by line. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, creating route optimization algorithms, automatic anomaly alert systems, real-time visualization dashboards. The first week, she slept a total of 23 hours, 7 days. An average of 3 hours and 17 minutes per night. The second week, she had a hypoglycemic episode at 3 a.m. and collapsed over the keyboard. She woke up 20 minutes later with a sore forehead and the imprint of the keys on her skin. She ate 3 bananas from the executive pantry, technically theft, but they never noticed anyway, and went back to coding. In the third week, she started seeing code when she closed her eyes. Lines of command floating in the darkness of the tiny apartment where she lived alone now, since her mother had passed. She dreamed of infinite loops, bugs she couldn't debug, syntax errors that woke her in a panic at 4 a.m. Her body, already thin, became skeletal. The navy blue and white uniform hung on her shoulders as if on someone 20 pounds heavier. Dark circles under her eyes so deep that people averted their gaze. Hands trembling not from nervousness, but from pure physical exhaustion. Her cleaning colleagues began asking if she was okay. Mrs. Henderson, who worked on the 10th floor and was old enough to be her grandmother, brought an extra-packed lunch from home. "You're fading away, girl. Eat this, for God's sake." Mr. Paul, the night security guard who patrolled the building, started bringing her coffee at 2 a.m. "Stay sharp, Rita. I see what you're doing up there. I don't know what it is, but it looks important. Don't collapse now." It was the invisible ones taking care of each other. The people who cleaned, guarded, served, everyone who occupied the spaces no one saw. They understood. They knew that when someone like Rita got a chance, it was a chance for all of them. In the second month, Rita finally had the first functional prototype of the system. It could pull data from AVL's old system, process routes in real time, automatically identify bottlenecks, and suggest optimizations. It wasn't perfect, it had bugs, occasional crashes, and the interface looked like it was designed by someone with severe sleep deprivation, because it was. But it worked. She showed it to Marcia Tavares one Thursday morning. The executive assistant had become a silent ally, letting Rita use the printer, the scanner, and occasionally a newer laptop when the old desktop froze. "Rita," Marcia whispered, eyes wide as she watched the system run. You did this alone? There was no one else to do it. But this must have cost. Only time. And sanity. But I had plenty of that." Marcia touched her shoulder with a gentleness that made Rita want to cry. "Show it. Now." "It's not ready yet," Rita protested. "I need to test more, fix the bugs, improve the interface. If you wait until it's perfect, he'll invent another excuse not to honor the promise. Show progress. Show that it's real." So Rita scheduled a meeting, through Marcia, because a cleaner didn't have direct access to the CEO's calendar. A 15-minute presentation on a Tuesday at 3 p.m. When she walked into that conference room, this time without a bucket, without a mop, just an old laptop under her arm. Ed was there with 3 executives. Roger was not. Roger, Rita had discovered through discreetly overheard conversations, was under a silent internal investigation. Daniel, the CTO, had found some of the evidence in the logs. Not everything, not yet, but enough to keep the manager on temporary paid leave. 15 minutes, Ed said, without looking up from his phone. "Start." Rita connected her laptop to the projector. Her hands were shaking so badly she missed the input slot twice. She took a deep breath, thought of her mother, the yellow Porsche, the hundreds of people still in that situation right now, all over the city, all over the country. And she began. She showed the system, explained the architecture, demonstrated how it took real-time data, processed it through basic machine learning algorithms, very basic. She didn't have time or resources for fancy stuff, and could predict bottlenecks with 87% accuracy. She showed how it identified 3 errors in the current system that hadn't been noticed yet. She showed the dashboard where any manager could see, in real time, the status of all shipments, all trucks, all routes. "And you built this in 2 months?" One of the executives asked, incredulous. 2 months of nights, Rita corrected. After 8 hours of cleaning during the day. Ed finally looked up. He studied the screen. He studied Rita. "What was the total cost?" "Nothing. I used free and open source tools." "And how much would it cost to build this from scratch by hiring a specialized firm?" Daniel, the CTO, checked his tablet. "Something between $300,000 and $500,000, plus monthly maintenance and hosting costs." Ed whistled softly. "And you did it for free." "I did it for the car," Rita replied. "And for the promise. Implement it," Ed decided. "Fully. I want the system running across all operations by the deadline. If it works, if it really brings losses to 0, the promise stands." "And what about the transportation program?" Rita pressed. "And the scholarships?" "One thing at a time. Deliver results first." That wasn't what Rita wanted to hear, but it was what she got. The next 4 months were implementation. And that's when everything got truly complicated. Because Rita's system threatened people. People with power. People comfortable with inefficient processes that allowed for small diversions, disguised kickbacks, favors among friends. A transparent system where every move of every shipment was tracked in real time. That ended a lot of quiet skimming. The resistance started small. Logistics managers, forgetting to input data. Warehouse supervisors reporting that the system was down when it wasn't. Subtle sabotage. Nothing obvious enough to be called a boycott, but enough to make the system look less reliable than it was. Rita spent more time debugging human resistance than technical bugs. And then Anthony Sterling, the CFO, began attacking publicly. In board meetings, he questioned the system's security. How do we know she isn't installing backdoors to steal data? He suggested the system was amateurish. Developed by someone without a diploma, without certifications, without real corporate experience. Other executives, insecure, began to agree. A cleaner building critical systems? It was unconventional, risky. What if it failed? The blame wouldn't fall on Rita. It would fall on them for trusting an unqualified person. In the 5th month, Ed called Rita back to the conference room. The circumstances have changed, he began, and Rita felt the floor disappear under her feet. We are hearing many concerns about the system's origin, about credentials, about protocol. The system works, Rita said, forcing firmness into her voice. Losses have dropped 71% since we began partial implementation. 71%. But not zero, Anthony interjected from the end of the table. You promised zero. And what about security risks? What about liability if something goes wrong? I tested every line of code. I documented everything. I created manuals, protocols. You created them alone, Anthony cut in. Without supervision, without qualified peer review, without external auditing. Sorry, but that doesn't meet minimum corporate standards. Ed tapped his fingers on the table. Perhaps we should bring in a consultancy to review the system, validate the code, add institutional credibility. Rita understood. They were going to take her work, put another company's name on it, dilute her contribution until she was just initial collaboration in the footnote of a report. And the car? She asked, her voice trembling. Rita, Ed sighed as if dealing with a stubborn child. Be reasonable. The promise was made under certain premises. No one expected you to actually achieve something this complex. It was motivational, you see, to boost morale. It was a public bet, Rita said louder now. You promised in front of 10 people, and I will honor it, Ed assured her, but his tone said the opposite. We just need to adjust the terms considering the new complications. New complications you created, Rita retorted, and for the first time, she didn't care who was listening. By sabotaging the data, by spreading doubt, by trying to disqualify the system because it works. Because I, a cleaner, managed to do what none of you could. That attitude isn't helping your case, Anthony said coldly. You know what else isn't helping? Rita opened the laptop she had brought. The log audit is finally finished. Daniel completed it last week. Want to know what he found? Anthony's face instantly went pale. He found that over the last 2 years, 23 manual system errors were created using your administrator credentials, all resulting in cargo diversions to phantom carriers, all registered to members of the Sterling family. Diversions totaling $8.7 million over 2 years. Did you forget that? Absolute silence. Rita, Ed said slowly, where did you get access to the audit report? Daniel sent it to me because he thought I deserved to know, since my notes were crucial in identifying the pattern. That report is confidential, internal legal matter, and it will remain so unless you try to screw me over with this circumstances have changed story, because then I'll go to the press. I'll tell everything. The company bleeding millions due to internal corruption. The cleaner who discovered it. The CEO who promised a reward and then backed out. It'll be a great story. Viral, probably. Rita had never made a threat in her life. It wasn't in her nature, but she was too exhausted, too disillusioned, too furious to care about the consequences. Ed and Rita stared at each other. It was real-time chess. She had public exposure as a weapon. He had institutional power, money, lawyers. But she had one thing he didn't, the moral high ground of a perfect narrative. poor versus rich, competence versus arrogance, justice versus privilege. And then something happened that no one expected. Marcia Tavares stepped forward. "I confirm," she said, her voice clear. "I witnessed the public promise. I witnessed her late-night work sessions. I witnessed the manager's sabotage against the system. And I will testify, publicly if necessary, about everything I saw." Mr. Paul, the security guard who was patrolling the floor, appeared at the door. "I testify too. I saw this young lady bleeding herself dry building something every night while you all tried to tear her down." Mrs. Henderson, the cleaner from the 10th floor, appeared behind him. "And me. I saw when she fainted from hunger and exhaustion. I saw her crying while programming because she couldn't take anymore. And I saw you trying to steal her work." One by one, the invisible ones appeared. 7 cleaning staff, 3 security guards, 2 receptionists, everyone who occupied the spaces no one saw. Everyone who had witnessed Rita's journey when they thought no one was paying attention. They were paying attention. All along. 12 witnesses, Rita said softly, plus the system logs showing every hour I worked, plus the security cameras that recorded everything, plus the emails I exchanged with Daniel documenting every step, plus my 4 notebooks with 6 years of notes. Do you really want to fight me on this? Ed ran a hand through his gray hair. He could see the game turning against him. Social media, the press, lawsuits, a battle he would destroy his reputation in even if he won legally. "How much time is left to complete the 6 months?" he asked Marcia. 18 days, she answered promptly. "And current losses?" Daniel checked his tablet. "They have dropped to 2.3% of operations. Projecting based on the improvement curve, we will reach under 1% before the deadline." "Zero was the promise," Rita reminded him. "Absolute zero is impossible in any logistics system," Daniel interjected. 1% is better than industry standards. It's excellent, actually." Ed took a deep breath. 18 days. On the 18th day, a public meeting. All executives, all employees who want to attend. You present the final results. If it's below 1% loss, and if the system is fully implemented and stable, the car is yours. Title transfer signed right there. "And the social programs?" Rita insisted. "Subsidized transport, scholarships. If you deliver what you promised, I'll deliver. Or what you asked for. Every item. But I need undeniable results. Deal?" Rita extended her hand. "Deal." They shook hands again. But this time, when their palms touched, Rita felt she was on equal footing. She was no longer a cleaner being tolerated by aristocrats. She was a professional negotiating as an equal. The last 18 days were a race against the clock. Rita finalized the system implementation. She personally trained every warehouse manager, every logistics supervisor, every system operator. She created PowerPoint presentations at 3 a.m. She recorded tutorial videos on her cell phone. She wrote 100 pages of technical documentation. She slept an average of 2 hours and 40 minutes per night. On the 10th day, she discovered a critical bug that caused the system to crash when processing more than 1,000 simultaneous operations. She stayed awake for 31 hours fixing it. She passed out again, this time in the women's restroom, found by Mrs. Henderson, who dragged her to the reception sofa and forced sugar water down her throat. On the 15th day, operational losses were at 0.7%. Better than the target. Better than any result AVL had achieved in 10 years. And then, on the 17th day, Anthony made his last move. He submitted a formal complaint to the legal department alleging that Rita had stolen proprietary code from old systems to build the new one, that she had violated NDAs, that she had accessed confidential data without authorization. It was a desperate attempt. Everyone knew it, but it was enough to create doubt and cause a delay. Rita learned about the complaint from Marcia one Friday morning, the day before the final presentation. "They're going to cancel the meeting," Marcia said, her voice defeated. "Legal will freeze everything pending appropriate investigation. Could take months." Rita sat down on a chair in the hallway, too exhausted to stand. "I can't take this anymore. Marcia, I'm so tired. So tired." For the first time in 18 days, she cried. Not delicate tears. Violent sobs of someone who had carried too much weight for too long. Her thin body shook entirely, hands covering her face, years of pain finally escaping. Marcia hugged her. Mrs. Henderson appeared, hugged her too. Mr. Paul. Other staff members. They formed a circle around Rita, the invisible protecting one of their own. And it was Mr. Paul who suggested, "Call the press." "What?" Rita lifted her tear-stained face. "Call the damn press. Tell the story before they tell their version." Something ignited inside Rita. One last spark of fight. Fernanda Reese was an investigative journalist for the Wall Street Journal, specializing in corporate abuse reports. Rita sent an email at 7:47 p.m. that Friday. Fernanda replied at 7:53 p.m. They were in front of the AVL building at 9:15 p.m. Rita told her everything. Showed her the notebooks, the photos, the emails, the testimonies of the staff, the 6-month timeline of working while being sabotaged, the CEO's public promise, the last-minute complaint trying to disqualify her. Fernanda recorded every word. "I can publish tomorrow morning," she said, "but there will be a reaction. Strong one. Are you prepared?" Rita thought of the yellow Porsche, her mother who died waiting for transport, the hundreds of people still in that situation right now all over the city, all over the country. "Publish," she said. The article went online at 6:27 a.m. Saturday morning. Black cleaner saves multi-million-dollar company after CEO promised CRAS a joke. Executives now trying TO sabotage reward. The report had everything. Photos of Rita's notebooks, email screenshots with timestamps, interviews with the 12 witness employees, a comparison of her system versus quotes from consulting firms, saving $500,000, graphs showing the 71% drop in losses, the story of her mother who died due to lack of transport, and at the end, Anthony's complaint trying to block Rita's recognition. At 8 a.m., the story was trending on U.S. Twitter. At 9 a.m., it had 50,000 shares. 10 a.m., other outlets were republishing. At 11 a.m., it was on international portals, The Guardian, BBC, NPR. At 12 p.m., the hashtag Justice for Rita was the third most used in the country. The AVL press office phone rang 347 times that Saturday, as Marcia would later recount. And at 2:32 p.m., Rita's cell phone, that old device with the cracked screen, rang with an unknown number. It was Edward Vance. "Monday, 10 a.m., main lobby of the building," he said without preamble. "Final public presentation. All executives present. Bring the results." And Anthony's complaint? Filed. Anthony was terminated this morning, along with Roger. Criminal investigations will be forwarded to the appropriate authorities. And the car. Monday, 10 a.m. Be there. He hung up. Rita stared at the phone for a full 5 minutes before her hands started to shake. Not from fear, from something close to hope. Monday, 10 a.m. The main lobby of the AVL Logistics building was unrecognizable. They had set up a small stage, projector, giant screen, chairs for 100 people. And there really were 100 people, executives, employees from all departments, journalists with cameras and recorders, even some people from other companies in the building who had read the article and wanted to see the outcome. Rita was in the front row, between Marcia and Mrs. Henderson. Her heart pounded so fast it hurt. 6 months ago, Ed began when the murmur of the crowd subsided. "I made an impulsive promise to an employee of our company. I promised my Porsche 911 Carrera if she could solve a logistics problem causing million-dollar losses. At the time, I admit it was made as a joke, as a way to ease tension in a difficult meeting." Rita stood in the front row, between Marcia and Mrs. Henderson. Her heart pounded so fast it hurt. "What I didn't know," Ed continued, "was who this employee truly was. Rita Silva has 4 years of industrial engineering credits. She took a leave 6 years ago to care for her sick mother and never returned after her passing. For the last 6 years, while working as a cleaning professional in this building, she observed every operation, every process, every system of this company. And the day came when she finally spoke up. He gestured for Rita to come onto the stage. Her legs were shaky, but they worked. Scattered applause echoed through the lobby. "Rita," Ed extended the microphone, "show them what you built." The next 20 minutes were surreal. Rita connected her laptop to the projector and presented the complete system. She explained the architecture, demonstrated features, showed real-time dashboards of that morning's operations. She showed the numbers. Operational losses reduced from 15.8%, average of the last 3 years, to 0.6% in the last month. 0.6%, she repeated. Better than the target. Better than industry standards. Better than any result this company has ever achieved. Stronger applause now. And the total development cost, Rita added, looking directly at Ed, was $0. Because I used free tools, knowledge I already had, and time I gave for free. A journalist raised their hand. But there were attempts to sabotage the project, correct? By executives within the company. Rita hesitated. Ed nodded for her to continue. Yes, she confirmed. There was resistance. People who benefited from the old system's inefficiency. People who were diverting resources through deliberately created flaws. Those people are no longer with the company, and the evidence has been forwarded to the authorities. Can you tell us who those people were? Another journalist asked. No, because that is now a legal matter, and I don't want to impede investigations. It surprised everyone by smiling at that. Accountability, professionalism, characteristics of someone in a leadership position. He signaled for the lights to be dimmed slightly and the green tarp to be removed. It was the Porsche, bright yellow under the lobby lights, more beautiful than she remembered from the times she had observed it through the glass. Rita Silva, Ed said formally. In public testimony of 100 people present here and this press corps recording, I honor the promise made 6 months ago. This vehicle, a 2023 Porsche 911 Carrera, is being transferred to your name, free and clear of any liens or encumbrances. The keys. He handed her a keychain with the Porsche emblem. Rita gripped it with hands trembling so much the keys jingled. But that's not all, Ed continued. As you requested when you accepted the challenge, AVL Logistics is creating 2 social programs. The first, AVL Solidarity Transit. We subsidize 80% of the cost of rideshares for employees living in areas with scarce public transit between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The goal is that no one ever has to go through what you went through, what your mother went through. Rita's voice cracked completely. Tears began to stream down. The second program, AVL Formation Scholarships. Employees at any level can apply for scholarships to complete undergraduate, postgraduate, or vocational courses. The company will cover up to 100% of the costs, depending on the employee's financial situation, because no one should have to choose between studying and caring for their family. Now it was a standing ovation. 100 people applauding, whistling, stomping their feet. And finally, Ed raised his voice over the noise. I want to announce that Rita Silva is no longer our cleaning professional. As of today, she is the Director of Operational Innovation at AVL Logistics, the first Black woman in a director-level position in this company, with salary, benefits, and autonomy equivalent to any other director. Because she not only deserves it, she proved she is more competent than all of us. Rita couldn't stand anymore. Marcia climbed onto the stage and held her steady. Mrs. Henderson followed. Soon there were 6 people on stage hugging Rita while she finally, allowed years of pain to escape in sobs that shook her entire body. Ed handed her the microphone. Rita looked at the 100 faces, at the cameras, at the Porsche, at the uniform she was still wearing. I didn't do this alone, she said in a broken voice. I did it with the help of every person who saw me when all of you were looking right through me. I did it for my mother, who taught me that dignified work is any work done with dedication, no matter the building, no matter the floor. I did it to prove that expertise isn't in the degree hanging on the wall or the title on the business card. It's in what you carry inside you, in what you do when no one is looking, in how much you care even when no one expects you to care. She looked directly at Ed. And I did it to prove that sometimes justice isn't about the world being fair. It's about forcing the world to reorganize around those who have always been there, supporting everything, just waiting for someone to finally look closely and recognize. They were always essential. They were always brilliant. They were just waiting for one chance. The cameras recorded everything. The image of Rita, still in her navy blue and white uniform, holding the keys to the Porsche with tears streaming down her face, went viral. It appeared in every newspaper the next day. It made the cover of magazines. It was shared millions of times with captions in 6 different languages. And something changed that day, not just for Rita, but in the very atmosphere of U.S. corporate culture. 5 companies announced similar programs in the following 6 weeks. Dozens of cleaners, security guards, receptionists reported internal promotions after their hidden competencies were finally recognized. Ed never joked about employees of lower levels again. He never looked through anyone again. And although he maintained his arrogance in external negotiations, internally there was a new, tangible respect for every person working in the building. He learned, too late for some purposes, too costly for his pride, that the most expensive laugh of his life wasn't about losing a Porsche. It was about nearly losing the opportunity to witness one of the greatest stories in his own company's history, and almost becoming the villain in it. 6 months after that stage in the lobby, Rita was driving the yellow Porsche through streets she had previously only known by bus. It was Tuesday, 11:15 p.m. She had received a call. An administrative employee, a 23-year-old named Julia who lived in Queens, had her mother feeling ill. Chest pain, shortness of breath. Ambulance estimated arrival in 50 minutes. Rita arrived in 17. Julia sat in the back seat with her mother. Rita sped up within legal limits, but with urgency to St. Camillus Hospital. Julia's mother was admitted in under 10 minutes. It was the beginning of a heart attack. Treated in time. Fully recovered 3 weeks later. It was the 4th time Rita had used the car this way. There was a network now. AVL employees who had saved each other's numbers. When someone had a medical emergency and couldn't get quick transport, they called. Rita, or someone who also bought a car with enhanced bonuses from the new social programs, would pick them up. 3 lives saved already. 3 people who arrived on time because they had a way to get there. Rita would never sell that car. Even now, earning a director's salary. Even if she could buy 10 Porsches if she wanted to. That specific car, bright yellow, held greater meaning. It was a physical reminder that dignity isn't asked for. It is earned. And that sometimes, just sometimes, the world bends toward justice when someone refuses to remain invisible. In the back seat of the car, returning home after dropping Julia and her mother off safely, Rita looked in the rearview mirror at the navy blue and white uniform hanging there. She had kept it, not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder of how much expertise she always had, even when the whole world insisted on not looking. A reminder that the problem was never a lack of capability. It was a lack of opportunity, and that, armed with opportunity, even one, a single one, people like her could rewrite entire destinies. It kept all his promises. The transit program saved 3 more lives in the first year. The scholarship program graduated 17 people, including Rita. She finally returned to CUNY, finished the last semester in 3 intensive months, and received her diploma on a rainy Saturday with Marcia, Mrs. Henderson, and all the cleaning staff applauding. The system she built continued to function. It actually improved with proper funding and a real team of developers that Rita now managed. Other companies bought licenses for it. Rita won innovation awards. She appeared at conferences on digital transformation. She became a case study at 3 universities. But the achievement she valued most were the messages. Hundreds of them. People writing to say that Rita's story had inspired them to speak up, to show off hidden competencies, to demand deserved recognition. Some got promotions. Others switched jobs to places that valued them. Some just gained the courage to go back to studying after years abandoned. Justice, Rita had learned, was never about punishment. Not primarily. It was about the world reorganizing itself. Slowly, painfully, but inevitably, around those who had always been there, carrying weight no one saw, supporting structures everyone took for granted. It was about finally being seen. And sometimes, when she drove that yellow Porsche through New York City at 3 a.m., taking someone to the ER or picking up an employee who missed the last subway, Rita whispered promises to the wind entering through the windows. Promises to her mother's memory, Joanna, who had dreamed of a better future for her daughter and didn't live to see it. "Never again, Mom," Rita would say softly. "Never again will someone wait alone while time slips away. Never again will someone die because they had no way to get there. Promise. I promise." The Porsche's engine roared in the night. The sound of luxury, the sound of power, the sound of justice finally served. But more than anything, it was the sound of someone who refused to remain invisible. And by doing so, she illuminated the path for thousands of other brilliant souls still waiting, working silently, for a single opportunity to show the world what they have always been: essential, competent, worthy, and finally seen. And you, how many times did you stop speaking because you thought no one would listen? How many times did you hide your skills because you thought it wasn't the right time, the right place, or that you weren't the right person? Rita's story teaches us that expertise never resides in titles or luxurious offices. It lives in the courage of a woman who, after 6 years of being ignored, finally said, "I know the answer," and changed everything. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss other inspiring stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Hit like so this type of content reaches more people who need to hear that they are capable. And share in the comments. Do you have a hidden skill the world hasn't seen yet? A talent waiting for the right moment? Write in the comments. "I will never be invisible again." I want to see hundreds of these declarations below. I want this space to become a collective commitment. We won't hide anymore. We won't wait for permission. We won't be ignored anymore. Every week, we bring real stories of overcoming, justice, and redemption. Stories of people who refused to accept the script written for them and created completely new endings. Thank you for watching until the end. You who had the patience to follow Rita's entire journey, from the navy blue uniform to the director's stage. You understand the value of not giving up, of believing even when everything conspires for you to doubt yourself. See you in the next story. And remember, you are not invisible. You never were. The world was just looking in the wrong place. Disclaimer: this is a fictional narrative created for entertainment and inspiration purposes. Any resemblance to real people, companies, or situations is purely coincidental. The events described here are creative dramatizations intended to convey universal messages about justice, recognition, and perseverance. They should not be interpreted as representations of actual facts or specific cases. The channel has no intention to defame, offend, or make factual claims about any individual or organization. The situations presented are works of fiction intended exclusively for narrative and motivational purposes.